Secondary fermentation is done, so today is bottling day. First thing we have to do is mix up a batch of sanitizing solution. 1 tablespoon and water. I'll only be doing one batch today. The Spartan seems to have finished first. The Macintosh is still bubbling a little bit, so it's not quite ready. Bottling options are plentiful. Most people start off with standard size bottle, but that's a lot of bottles to wash. A batch of beer is 23 liters, so that would be 69 bottles to wash in the regular size. If you choose the 750 ml format, that's half, so about 33, 34 bottles to wash. That's a good one. Then you can get 1 liter bottle. Then you only have to do 23 liters. And you can do growlers. The 2 liter growler, 1 liter growler, and here's yet another type of growler. But I prefer kegging. That's 19 liters in a keg, so there's only 4 liters left over. I only have to wash 4 of these, or 2 of these. You can also use plastic bottles like this, but they don't keep very well in that. So there's your bottling options. Quick note on cappers. This is the most common form of capping for just a regular crown capper, but in the case of this bottle, the neck, this part here is too tall for this to grab onto. So if you happen to use that, you're going to need this kind of capper. And yeah, this is a cork, combo cork and bottle capper. I can't emphasize siphoning enough, so I'm going to show you a few extra seconds of that. The keg. And the growler. Another note on sanitation, whatever rag you use to sanitize, this is the sanitation rag. You don't use it for anything else. Any spills, any droplets that you have on the floor, you use a different rag. Never mix the two together. The sanitation rag must stay the sanitation rag. The cider is fermented but not carbonated. So what we have to do is add some priming sugar to the bottle, and I use about 5 ml, and just put it in the bottles directly. And in about 2-3 weeks, the cider will be fully carbonated and it'll have a nice effervescence to it. I'm going to put 2 in the big one. And the keg doesn't need it because this is going to be pressurized by a CO2 bottle, and that will carbonate. Started the siphon, and I'll show you what it looks like. So the first thing, I start with the bottles because I get the 4 liters out of the way, and then I'll do the keg. And the siphon has a special fitting on the end to fill bottles. So you see I can lift it up and start the flow again. So I can go from bottle to bottle, growler to growler. Here we go. And when they get full, I lift up and it stops. For the keg, I don't need this wand anymore, so I just take it off and drop this in there and let the keg fill up by itself. No more intervention. Now I can start washing a few things while this is filling up. There we go. The carbonation should be done at the same temperature, room temperature, as you did the primary and secondary. So I keep it in the same room underneath everything else. There, that's the yeast that settled down during secondary fermentation, and that's the main reason, one of the main reasons for doing secondary fermentation is to let that yeast settle down to help clarify. Now there's still, it's not clear yet, but that's because this time around the fermentation happened at a colder temperature. I don't think my room got over 18, 19 degrees, and that's because we had a heater failure. I have no heat in this room, and I'm waiting for a new heater, but 18, 19 is borderline low for the yeast, but it still worked. This one is not quite done yet, but and this will get clearer. So this is fresh out of the sanitizing bucket, and she goes, and ready to go. So I just need to connect the CO2 hose to here, flush the remaining air that's in here. We want to purge all the air out and put a layer of CO2 over the cider, and that way it's going to stay, it can't contaminate. If there's no oxygen, you can't have oxidation, so you can't have contamination. So the CO2 goes in right away, and we'll connect it up in the next week or two to sample it from the keg. But first we're going to work from the growlers here, and a couple of other little bottles that I filled. But that's it. Done. Alright, give the O-ring a wipe so it's wet. Don't want to put this on a dry O-ring. And CO2 is connected. We just go to my CO2 bottle, and we give it a purge. There's a little valve here, and like this. And we just, this is a pressure relief valve, and we just give it a, and we just purge the air out. We want to get that nasty oxygen out of there. That's good enough. The CO2 is heavier, so even if we don't get all the air out, the CO2 will form a layer over the cider or beer, and any residual oxygen or air that's left in there will be at the top of the keg, not in contact with the liquid. But you know what? Let's give it another shot. There we go. And this will also carbonate it at the same time.